He said, we are going to give you an operation on your back. We're going to give you a spinal fuse. Now, there's two ways you can do it. We can take the two vertebrae that is bad, we can take them out, and your vertebrae will come down together and it'll fuse in there. You will be shorter. You will be shorter because you're taking two vertebrae out. So you will be shorter, or else we could take a bone graft from your hip. We'll take a bone graft and we'll put the bone graft in where we take the vertebrae out. And then we'll fuse it in there, so as you will have a solid back on the bottom of your spine, because you'll have a piece of bone from your graft. Now, it's just very simple to take the bone from your thing. Your bone is very soft in your hip, and we just take a scoop and scoop a bit of the bone out with a scoop, and how much we need, how long we need it, and then we fuse it in your back, and you will be two vertebrae with a piece in there to cover two vertebrae. So I said, well, I think I want to be shorter. I don't want to be shorter. I'm right the way I am. So he said, all right. He said, but he said, we got to have the operation. It's going to take a while to do this. So he said, you're going to be taken in for this there operation, and then you'll be in a striker bed for 9 weeks, and then you will be 2 hours on your stomach and 2 hours on your back. 2 hours on your stomach and for 24 hours a day for 9 weeks. And so I said, okay. So I went into the hospital, and they were getting ready, setting up to do this this operation. But when they opened it up, they found out that there was 5 vertebrae that was. And he come and he said to me, after the operation, he said, you got a bone graft in there of 5 vertebrae. He said they were pretty bad. He said the whole 5 of them was pretty bad. You must have had an awful smash on your back. So he said, we took the 5 out and put a bone graft in solid. Now he said, you can't have another operation on your back. If it goes out anywhere else, you have to live with it. You won't get another operation on your back. So then they were going in and doing, some of them had a vertebrae out in their neck. So then that was bad. So they'd take the vertebrae and go in and just do it with a hole in their back and do it in the neck. But when mine went out after, it was strong there. So when I started working and different things, it was quite a while after, when I was working for the school board, the 9 weeks that I was in the hospital, and with that, when I came out, they gave me a steel brace right around my whole body, and then it clamped in the front, in a clamp, and it was all steel bracelet. And I wore that for quite a while after once they got me up, when they got me up after 9 weeks, I couldn't feel my feet at all. But after a while, it come back after they walked me around a little bit, and then my feet, I started to get feeling in my feet. But I remember one time when they came in to change me, and I was on my stomach, and they came in the middle of the night and was going to change me onto my back, and they had to take this bolt off to turn the thing around. So every time they did it, I was scared that they were going to forget to put the bolt on, because the thing would have flopped right onto the floor if they. And so this one night they came in, and I was pretty scared, because I thought, I didn't hear him putting that bolt on, you know. And I said to the oil, just as he's going to turn me, he was just going to turn me around. And I said, did you put that bolt on? And he looked, he said, no, I didn't. And he says, it's a good thing you remember. He said, I just forgot it. And so I would have been on the floor, and then the spinal fuse would have been broke again. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was just one of the things that I got. But anyway, they put the pension up a bit more, and then when they fought for it, they fought for prisoners of war, and the government threw that we were going to get 50% pension for each prisoner of war, whether it was in Germany or in Hong Kong or wherever a prisoner of war, they would get 50% more pension. So it brought my pension up to 100%. Well, I went up to 100%, but they had given us Hong Kong veterans a thing to, but I couldn't get it because I was always already on 100%, and they said you can't get any more than 100%. That's all DVA gives you is 100%. So I already had 100%, so it didn't come out. But I'd got it in stages from 5%. Then it went up to 30%, then it went up to 50%, and gradually, when they came through that every prisoner's got 50%, of course, I had 50% and put up to anything more that they couldn't give you. And so we got that. Then we tried to get the Japanese to give us compensation for doing work in Japan. We fought and fought to have them, we wanted them to apologize for the treatment that they give us. We figured it was right for the Japanese to apologize, but they got it from the United States, got it, and they got a compensation from the Japanese of so much money that each prisoner of war got a thing from the Japanese. But when the thing was signed, United States got it put into the signing of the thing that all prisoners of war would be paid by the Japanese government for any labor they did. But Canada hadn't done it. So they couldn't go, they wouldn't go back to Japan and ask for us. And we were trying to get them to do this, and they couldn't do it. They said that the thing was signed and it was over with. We had signed the treaty, everything that was in the treaty that Canada had agreed to and the Japanese agreed to had been done, and that was it, that they couldn't go in to do it. But then the people decided that with us fighting it and going into the thing, some of the reporters started writing it in the paper that they think that if they can't get it from the Japanese, then the Canadian government should pay it. And we said we don't want it from we want the Japanese to apologize to us. We don't want no compensation from the citizens of Canada. We don't want it that way. We're Canadian soldiers that went to war and got no recognition when we come back or anything, but we don't want the Canadian people to pay for it. We wanted Japan to pay for it. But the government come through and said we will give them all a compensation for what they went through, because papers come out and the people said they should get it and everything, and the government finally come through, they passed it in Parliament. So they sent us $23,000. Each prisoner from Hong Kong got $23,000. And to us, it was nice to get it, but we didn't want the Canadian people to pay for it, the taxpayers to pay for it. But the government brought it out and passed it in the Parliament, and they finally sent us a check for $23,000. But when you look at it, when they paid the Japanese that was taken from Vancouver, I think they got $60,000.
Gordon, are you aware of the opinion that Canadian troops shouldn't have been sent to Hong Kong? And there was a bit of a controversy sometimes about, you know, it was a mistake in the Canadian government to send you guys there. Have you heard anything about that?
Well,
do you have an opinion about that?
Well, there was a lot of talk on that. The government was really looking. The election was coming up for the Liberals. The election was coming up, and they weren't sitting too pretty after different things that happened in the war and that. And they weren't sitting too pretty. So they were looking for votes at the time. The war had broke out, and Dunkirk had happened and that, and they weren't doing too much. So they were looking at where can we get some troops into the theater of war? Where can we get them in to build our stuff up for this election coming up?
Did you feel that personally was a mistake?
Yes.
So that's what I was going to get at. Like, what do you think about that decision?
Because what happened was, when they decided to send troops to Hong Kong, Churchill said, "Don't send them. We're going to lose them anyway, because if the Japanese do cause a war, we're not going to protect. We cannot protect. We got a big war in Europe. We're not going to protect Hong Kong. Everything has been shipped out of Hong Kong to Russia. All the troops has left Hong Kong and going to the only thing that would be, you might be able to keep, if you sent a couple of regiments, you might be able to hold them back for 20 days or so. But it's not going to do any good, because we're going to lose it anyway, and we know we're going to lose Hong Kong. So why waste the troops there when they could be sent to England and we could use them? So the English government is telling Canada, do something. And so they decided that they would send these troops to Hong Kong to show that they were doing something. And they didn't have a clue that the Japanese was going to start anything. They didn't think the Japanese was going to start anything. And talks was going on with the Japanese at that time. And they figured, well, Japan will never attack the United States, never. And that was the thought. We thought it too, that there was a war. See, so they wanted publicity that they were sending some troops there to help the war, and just in case Japan started. They didn't have a clue that it was going to happen. So that's why they sent it. And they should never have sent us because they were going to lose the two regiments as it was. They knew that they were going to lose the two regiments. But of course, it didn't, the public didn't know that. So why not get a few votes by doing something? See, so it was all in votes and that, and then when they were so embarrassed that they'd sent us, because the public was at them for sending troops over there, saying, well, they haven't got nothing to fight with. Because our supplies was, we went and they were supposed to be sent 2 months later. The war broke out before 2 months, so our supplies went to the Americans, to Singapore and to Philippines, because they were fighting a lot longer. They had more troops to fight in Philippines than what we had in Hong Kong. So 2 regiments, that's 11,000 men in one regiment, 11,000 men in another regiment. Well, I mean, what are you going to do with those? And no supplies. The ones that came into our regiment after we come back from Jamaica was, they were more or less not trained, we were meant to train them when they got to Hong Kong. They were going to be trained in Hong Kong because they didn't figure that Japan was going to start a war. See, so they were going to be trained there. So we had training in machine guns. So any machine guns they were going to use. My rifle was a Lee Enfield, which was the First World War rifle. And I was told during the war, when I became in charge of the platoon, they said, he hasn't got a rifle, so give you a rifle you don't need a rifle, you're corporal, you're going to be given something else to, so give your rifle to the guy that hasn't got a rifle, see. So he hadn't even fired a rifle. I mean, he'd never fired a rifle, and we had done that all in Jamaica. So we had to try to show him everything about the rifle, how to use the rifle and everything, and what clips he had to use, and how he had to load them, and everything like that. Well, we did that all when we went up to the pillbox. That's what I was doing as acting as a corporal, was showing the ones that hadn't got trained all the different things that I knew and got trained by. It was quite a job to teach these that we were doing, and knowing that the war might break out any moment. And but I don't know why it was that that things happened like that. That I didn't get recognized as being a corporal or anything. But I mean, it's all over with now. Yeah. And I'm not no regrets. I was just so happy to come back. And then I actually was so bitter. I come back and I had so much bitterness and so much hatred in my body. And I still think the Lord was working with me and hoping that He would get me to go different things. The way things worked out, I ended up going to and becoming a Catholic. And it was through him that I became a Catholic, and I tell you right now that when I got the oil poured on me, I felt all that weight that was on my shoulders of hate and everything just lifted right off of me. And when he poured that oil on me, I could have danced. I could have sang out loud and everything, and I never did that in my life. I never did that, and I never talked about religion. It was the furthest thing from my mind. Religion was that. Now I never shut up about it. I'm strictly with him. I know he is there, and he has done so much for me since I come back. He has taken all the grief and everything that I had from me and took it right off of him. That he's got it himself, and he's taken everything away from me that I ever had in the hatred and the heavy weight. And that's the way I feel. And I hope that the kids that hear about me, well, I want to say one thing to them. Believe in him, because he's there, and he'll help you wherever you call him. And stay in school. Get your education. Get all the education you can get. Stay in school and get all your education, and that is the main thing in your life, is getting your education. Because I had none. I didn't have. I went to grade 8, but I regretted it all the time, and I couldn't get it after I come back because I was married and had to work to provide for my wife and that. But you can get it while you're young. Get it now.
Just in closing, Gordon, you didn't mention your family. How many children did you have?
I had 3 boys and 1 girl.
And then what happened to your brothers? We kind of,
My
your
brothers-
brother-in-law, sorry, you had a brother-in-law named Fag, Fred Fag.
Yeah, Fred Fag.
What happened to your brothers and Fred Fag?
My brothers, they drank a lot when they come back. I drank a lot when I come back, but I quit. I quit when I met my wife. I just said, if she's that good to me, I'll marry her, and I've got to settle down and be a husband to her and not drink so much is what I'm drinking. And I was at one party after another when I first come back, and I was pretty well drunk all the time. I drank so much that I couldn't be sober to drink so much. And I never drank over the limit. I had a real good conscience that it's wrong for you to drink so much. Give it a rest for a while, you know, and I would stop for a little while. But I always went back to it because, I hadn't had it for years and years, so it was something that you had to do, and most people were drinking, so you drank with them. And so it was a hard time for us, coming back and not being recognized that that's what we figured, well, to heck with them, and my brother, my one brother, he had a diphtheria. When diphtheria broke out in the camp, which I told you about, he had it and never had any serum, but he pulled through, but he had a cardiac heart, and he had a very weak heart. And my one brother that didn't go into the army had died of he was the one that was home when my mother and dad died. And he did it all on his own, buried them and everything. And he should have been really, he should have been compensated for what he did, but we were so happy to be home, we didn't realize, I realize it now that he should have been compensated, but he was working in the mill in Kuwait, and he took a heart attack and died from it. His son had brought him around to it, and he said, if I go again, he said, let me go. And he took another heart attack, but he died from that heart attack. My other brother, he took his wife died. Morris, my oldest brother, he had this cardiac heart and from the stuff in the camp, and he died from a heart attack. But his wife died with cancer before that, and then he just pined away from her, the same as my dad did when my mother died. He pined, my dad had pined away. They said that he just couldn't stand her going and him still living, and he just pined away on her, and so did my brother. He couldn't stand his wife dying shortly after he came back, and then my other brother, his wife died of cancer, and he was left with the kids, all the kids that they had. They had one girl and 3 boys, and he couldn't stand with his wife dying, so he kept drinking after she died. He actually drank himself to death, because he got a small holding out in BC, in Wendell, and he had a kind of fruit farm, and he didn't do anything with it. He kept drinking there. He was in Wendell, and he was in the beer parlor. He got in with some other people that drank, and eventually got sick. And I went out, somebody told me, you better see your brother, he's pretty bad. So I went out, and he was in bed, and he was really bad. So I went out with his son, one of his sons, and I had a station wagon. So I said, well, let's go to Wendell. I hear your dad is pretty bad. So we went out to Wendell with my car, and we loaded him in the back of the station wagon, and we put him on this bed, and we brought him back to Calgary. And we put him in the Foothills Hospital, and he was in there about a week and a half or so, and the doctor told him that you must stop drinking. Your liver is very bad. If you don't stop drinking, you're going to die. Your liver can't stand it anymore. So he got out of the hospital, and he come, and we told him, well, come over, we'll put you up at the house until you can get back to Wendell. So he come over at the house, and he said to me, he said, Gordon, he said, I'm not, that's it. He said, I'm giving it up. He said, I was told in the hospital that it's going to kill me if I drink anymore. But he said, you won't see me take a drink anymore. So he went back to Wendell. And of course, all the people were still drinking. He started up again. Somebody told me there one time, he said, you better get to see your brother. He's back sick again. So I went out to, my wife and I got in the car, and we went out to Wendell. And I said, well, he was sitting in a chair, and he wasn't moving out of the chair. He sat in that chair all the time we were there, and he sat in the chair. And he said, I don't drink very much now. He says, I drink once in a while. He said, I take a little drink once in a while. And I said, oh, well, that's good. I said, You know it's going to kill you if you drink it. So I'm talking to this woman there that he's got there, this woman he's got with him, that's living with him. And I said, does he drink anymore? And she said, oh, not very much. We go to the beer parlor and have a drink and that. So then I turned around and he reaches around behind the chair and picks up this bottle of gin. He picks it up and drinks it straight out the bottle, puts it down. He says, I said to him, don't drink very much. He says, have a drink now and again. He says, that's not bad. He said, and I knew right away that was it. He was drinking and trying to cover it up. And
yeah, a lot of
especially gin, right straight out of the bottle.
Yeah, a lot of the. It sounds like they probably had such bad experiences that they were very hard to forget, so they turned to alcohol.
Well, I had him lifted off by turning to Jesus.
Yeah.
He didn't. See, he had so much on his mind, so much hate and everything on his mind, the same as I had. He had to cover it up some way, and he was drank to do it. And I think the government not recognize us and not doing that killed a lot of veterans, a lot of Hong Kong veterans. I believe that was really a fault of theirs, that they didn't recognize us, and nobody, the doctors didn't recognize us. And so when we went and had a convention in, I think it was about 3 or 4 years before the one in Ottawa, the main one in Ottawa, where the government took us to Ottawa and paid our way and paid a caregiver, but we were so bad that they had to get a caregiver to help us. A lot of us couldn't go to Ottawa and try to do what we had to do and that. So I think it helped going to Ottawa. But before that we had one in Victoria. I would say 10 teachers from across Canada wasn't getting anything of Hong Kong. Nobody was putting anything out about the Hong Kong veterans. So the kids in school was saying, well, look, they had an army in Hong Kong. We know that they had an army in Hong Kong, and we can't find anything about it. The teacher said, well, we can't tell you, we don't know anything about it. So they got in touch with the government. So the government had nothing. See, they wanted to forget us. They had nothing. So when we had this convention, 10 or so teachers from across Canada paid their own way when they heard we were having a convention in Victoria. Came to Victoria, and they came to one of our meetings when we went and had this meeting. Said, we are teachers from across Canada. There was one spokesman, and they got up and they said, we have looked all over to get something. The kids are asking us about Hong Kong veterans. We hear that you were in the prison camp for 4 years, and we got nothing about it. We can't get nothing about it. We don't know. The kids are asking about it. Would you get the story out to us? So then, when we heard the teacher saying this, that the kids want something, they told us all, go to the schools and let them know what happened in Hong Kong, how you feel and what happened. And tell the kids in the school, when you go to a school, tell them what you went through and everything, so as they'd know, so as the kids in the school will get something to know, because it's history. It's history, and they should know history of Canada, and they should know history of the Hong Kong veterans. So that's what we have tried to do, is volunteering, of going to different schools and that. And so I still, I have laid the wreath for the Hong Kong veterans here in Calgary for about 4 or 5 years, because there was only 4 active members of us in Calgary, and we made the Hong Kong veterans, are so few of us now that we made a Hong Kong Commemorative Association, which is our sons, our daughters, and our friends. Our friends has done more for us in keeping it going. And at our convention last year, it was the Hong Kong volunteers, that the sons and the daughters and the friends of the Hong Kong veterans that put it on. They were the ones that did it for us, because there was only 4 of us here in Calgary. How could we put a convention on? They did a wonderful job. They got word back from the East saying that, boy, Calgary sure knows how to put on a party. And they were quite pleased the way we put it on in Calgary. We did a lot of things. I went around and tried to collect some money so as to help her, and we did a few things. We had a lot of meetings of what was going on, what the other people, and they did the sons and daughters did a real good job, and the friends of the Hong Kong veterans did a real good job. And
Japan?
I went back, but it was quite a long time after. I went back, I was going to the Philippines, and I stopped in Hong Kong, and I just didn't have no way of, I was by myself, I didn't have no way of getting around or anything. I got a taxi driver, and he seemed to know more about the war in Hong Kong than I knew really of where to go. And I said to Shamsipo Camp, and he says, well, he says, there's nothing there. They closed it up and built apartment buildings there in Shamsipo. So there's nothing, you wouldn't even know it now. But he said, we can go to Hong Kong and go up to where you were. He said, you might see some things. He said, there's some different places I can take you to in Hong Kong, like the graves of the people, and where the Japanese landed in Hong Kong, and that. So he says, we'll go over to Hong Kong. He says, I'll take you over to Hong Kong, and they had, it was so different. It didn't seem like, Kowloon even didn't seem like what I knew it, and Hong Kong itself, Victoria, the city, didn't seem like the same. The ferry boat wasn't the same ferry boat that we had when we went across there. And I couldn't recognize much of Hong Kong. We went to Aberdeen, and I remember Aberdeen, all the junks there that was fishing junks, and that, and it wasn't the same there even, but one little old lady said, I'll take you for so much money, I'll take you for a trip around the harbor and that. So I went for a ride on the junk, with this little old lady and another couple of young ones. They were living on this junk, and she didn't get very much, I guess, from the government and that, and she was taking different people for rides around in this junk. So she took me around. She had a motor on it now, and it had sails when we were there, but she had a motor on this junk. And so she took me around through between all these different junks that was out there. And then this taxi driver just sat in the taxi waiting for me, and I went there, and then he took me up. He said, "I'll take you up to where you were stationed." I went up to where our pillbox was. I knew our pillbox was right close to this dam that they had, so he took me up there to the pillbox, but it had been broke up, and I think the Chinese got up there after and broke it up after, or the Japanese may have done it. I don't know, but it was caved in and that. So there was nothing much left of it, but a bunch of the part of it was still standing. But I seen that, and then that where we were stationed, we stopped at the road where I had the roadblock and the culvert, and I went into the culvert to look, see if there was anything left there or not. But now I guess the Chinese had been up there and they'd cleaned everything out, because even when we left all the guns and that there, and even the mines that we were going to put the detonators. I had taken them down. The sergeant said, "Throw those things away. Throw those things away." When he told us that we had to break up all our arms, and the thing that bothered me the most was this revolver that I got. It was such a beautiful revolver. I was going to take it back as a souvenir, and I had to break it up on the rock. And I remember when I hit it on the rock, and the spindle flew out of it, and I said, "Well, that's lost." And so then I smashed it again on the rock, and the handles, the pearl handles on the revolver broke off, and I threw the rest of it away, and I remember smashing that up, and it hurt to smash that thing up.
So Hong Kong it brought back a few memories, but there was so much change that
so much change,
yeah.
We went to a ceremony right downtown in Victoria. It was right downtown, and it's a big place, something like that their place there, and they had some names of all our names that had come to Hong Kong, like all the ones on there, that this was put in after, I guess, after the war ended, and they put this big monument up right in the town, right downtown, and the taxi driver said, "This one thing you might want to see," and they had all the ones that died while the war was on, the fighting, and I was looking to see some of my friends that I knew was died fighting, and looked for their names on it, and I seen that, and I said, "I know this guy, and I knew this guy, and that," and I was talking to the taxi driver, and then we went over to where they had this wall, where the Japanese landed on the island, and they had a big wall of a bunch of names of all the Hong Kong prisoners that was taken prisoner on a big plaque up on this big wall, and they'd made a a big stone thing, and they had all of them wrote in, right in the rock, of all the prisoners that was in Hong Kong.
Hmm. So did you find your name on there?
Yeah, I found
Yep.
my name on there, and I see it's going to be there for forever, I guess, on this wall. So they had that there, and a big monument. It's like a big square spike that went up, and right there, and. This is where the Japanese landed on the island and that, but it wasn't the same to go back to it. I didn't care to go back again because it was changed so much, and then not having anybody there to do it with. It wasn't a good idea. I wanted to go to Japan. I went back to Hong Kong, and I went back for a friend of mine, a Filipino that was going back to get married, and she wanted me to be at her wedding in Cebu, Philippines. So I made my plans that I would go there for a month in the Philippines, but when I went back, I wanted to fly straight through to Japan and spend a week in Japan after I left the Philippines, and go back to see the place that I was a prisoner in Japan. And I flew to flew to one place and landed there. But when we landed, it was raining. And I went gonna go on a train to this place that I wanted to see where this camp was, but it was raining. And you didn't go out because it was raining so hard, just pouring rain. In 3 days I spent there, and I couldn't go anywhere. The time was running out to go to, it might be a long ways to go from here to on the train to get to that place. And I just had a week that I had to catch my plane to go back to Vancouver. It was with Canadian, so it was raining, and I said, how long is it going to rain? I said, is this ever going to stop? They said it could be another week before it stopped. So they said this is a rainy season, and it was like a monsoon. It was just pouring rain. You couldn't, nobody was out in the street, because it was just too miserable. There was this much water on the street. And if you walked out, your feet was, your shoes that you had on was just ordinary walking shoes, but you would have wet feet as soon as you stepped out in this, in there. And it was, I'd never seen rain like that, but it was steady all the time, day and night, for 3 days. So I phoned Air Canada, said, how about going back? I said, it's raining here, and I said, I want to go back to Canada. I said, there's no use, I haven't got that much time. When can I go back? When can you get me a flight to go back? He said, go to the airport, and we'll get you on the first flight that's going back. So I went out to the airport, and I met this girl, a Filipino girl. She was on the plane when I came in, and she's going to Calgary too, because she's going to up north somewhere, and so then I met her, and she knew how to get around the airport, because she had been there before so many times that she knew how to get. This airport was huge. It was just, you rode on to get around to where Air Canada was, you got on the fast train, and it went around to there. Then you had to get off, and you had to go up escalator, and then get on another one and go a little bit further, and then you had to get off and go a little bit further, to go down and go a little bit further, and it took you an hour and a half or 2 hours to get to where Air Canada was, because the place was so huge. I'd never seen such a big airport. There was hundreds and hundreds of different airplanes out in the tarmac. This pouring rain, and we're inside, but she knew where to go, and she says we have to get off and go down the escalator to the next floor, and then we'll get back on again. And we were traveling for so long. Then we had to go. When we got there, we had to sit there for, I think it was two or 3 hours. We sat in the airport, and I met. I went to go down to buy. I wanted a soft drink, so I went down to this place, and I had a $20 American $20, and I went to buy a bottle of Coke, one for me and one for this Filipino girl. I asked her if she wanted a drink. So we went down, I bought 2 bottles of Coke, and she took the $20, and I said, is there no change? She says, no. She said, that's what it cost. And I couldn't believe it. It would cost so much money in Japan to buy a bottle of Coke.
You were happy to get out of Japan then.
So then the girl come, and she says that when she come by it, she says, we'll take you now. I'm going to make up the flight, so you better come down. And she says, I'll get you on the flight. So when we got down there, she says, oh, she said, this flight is full. She said, it's all right. She says, I'll get you back. She says, I'm going to put you on first class back to Vancouver. So she put us on first class back to Vancouver, the 2 of us, this girl from the Philippines and myself. And we got a trip back to, on flight back to Vancouver.
So you're a lucky
first
traveler.
class. So we got everything big on, and we could lay down and sleep all night, because it's 13 hours back to Vancouver from Vancouver, from Japan. And so we had a nice trip back.
Well, that's good. So you didn't get to see Japan, but
Didn't
that's
get
okay.
to see
You
Japan.
saw Japan, but you didn't see your camp. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So it wasn't nothing the same, and probably that camp wasn't there anyway.
Yeah.
And so maybe I wasn't meant to go back to that camp. Maybe they were going to keep me there another 4 years.
I wanted to thank you for sharing your story, because it's just an amazing story, and I know there's still some more to come. Probably knowing you, there's probably some other stories, but I wanted to show you a book that I think they've got in the library, and I think they pulled it out for us, and it's on the Winnipeg Grenadiers. So I just wanted to show you, and it's got your picture in it. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that we've got I think we've got everything there. I think we're going to run out of tape here in a minute anyway. So was there any other last thing you wanted to add? I mean, you've done a really awesome job, so don't feel you have to. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
I don't think there's much more. I mean, it's 60 years ago that this happened, and you can't remember everything. Yeah. And I mean, I'm still going to go to schools and talk to the kids. The students that's in the school, it's just wonderful to talk to them. And if any of the schools would like somebody to go out and talk to the students call me. Get my name from the museum, and I'll go out anytime they want me to.
Well, that's good.